Welcome to Pario Magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I am joined by an Australian singer songwriter who has recently released a song alongside one of her students. Welcome to Pario Magazine, Magdalia.
Hi.
So, we're here today to chat about your journey through the world of music. Before we dive into that, though,
Mhm.
can you give our audience a brief little introduction as to who Magdalia is away from the recording studio and the performance stage?
Yes, so you can definitely call me Brodie. Magdalia is my stage name, and it's a name that I came up with after my grandmother's middle name. Um, I am a singing teacher outside of my normal just writing music life, which is where this song or collaboration came about. One of my students, I was working with one of my students, and I was given the opportunity to perform this song. And the lovely songwriter Satali asked me if I wanted to do it as a duet, and I said to her, I know exactly who I want to sing it with. And I have this beautiful 16-year-old student, Mayzie Chew. She's amazing. I've been teaching her since she was 12. And yeah, the song kind of just bloomed from there. It was a really great experience. And yeah, it's a beautiful song, I think.
Brilliant. So, going back a little bit further, when and how did you discover the passion for music?
Well, I started learning to sing when I was about 8 years old. My mum, well, I wanted to learn how to play guitar, but my mum wanted to learn how to sing when she was a kid, and she wasn't allowed to. My grandpa was like, no, I don't want to pay for that. So my mum gave me the opportunity to learn to sing, and I guess my singing teacher was like, yeah, she's okay. And I just kept going from there, and I really found that that was the best place for me that I felt like I could express myself. Um, I'm autistic, so I didn't, at the time, I didn't know that, but I found that I was able to kind of be the person that I wanted to be and express my emotions in a way that I hadn't been able to before. Um, Songwriting, though, came a lot later for me. Um, After high school, I went to uni and I didn't do music. I think I did theatre, but I think the songwriting came from doing musical theatre and having to kind of write our own musical theatre songs. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually okay at this. I could probably give it a go. So I gave it a try. My niece was born, and I felt like I needed to write something to get out the emotions of all this love that I had for her. And that's where the first song came out of, which will never be released because it's terrible. But it was still a good opportunity to try. So, yeah, I kind of was like, all right, I can probably do this. And from there, I just kind of kept going. And yeah, bloomed from there, I guess.
Very nice. Do you feel you might ever go back and sort of revisit that first song and maybe rework it so then it is in a releasable state?
I don't think so. I think that I gave the song to my brother and his wife, and obviously my niece, who was a baby when that happened. So who knows if she's actually ever heard it? But I think that as it stands, it's a really good um, representation of where I was at that moment and where she was. And I don't think that I really want to change it or release it because it's such a personal kind of thing, and it was written just for her that I probably wouldn't release it, and I wouldn't really want to go back to it anyway and be like, oh, that wasn't that great.
Mhm. Maybe it'll like inspire her to go down a musical path and then it will awaken something in her.
Maybe, who knows?
So, when did you sort of realize that this passion for music was basically a bit more than a fandom and was potentially something you could create a career from?
Um, I think like when I first got to perform, so I think I was like 12, I performed at school, and I just remember coming off stage and feeling like really, really excited and like I'd been able to show something that I hadn't been able to before, even though I'd been at school for obviously the 6 years at that point. And I was just like, Yeah, maybe I could do something with this. I got a scholarship to my school to sing, and I was like, okay, so people actually think that I can do something with this. Um, and I guess because I was always supported by my parents, they let me do whatever I wanted. They let me try whatever I wanted. And my mum was always trying to find things that I could do with music. That I was like, yeah, I could give it a go. I could definitely try. And when I found out that I was able, like, to learn how to teach and all of that, I was like, okay, I can definitely do something with this.
So then, who were some of your earliest influences, and how have those influences evolved over the years?
I always say that Delta Goodrem was the first like album that I listened to that wasn't like the Wiggles, or High Five or something. So we had like a legal version of Innocent Eyes, that our friends had burnt for us, and we played that in the car over and over and over again. So I loved that album. Um, from there, I would say that when I wanted to learn how to sing, I wanted to sing Love Story by Taylor Swift. I was obsessed with Taylor Swift, I still am. Um, my singing teacher at the time was like, "You absolutely cannot sing Love Story. You're 8 years old. You have no experience with love." And I was like, "That's valid." I mean, at the time, I didn't think it was valid, but I do now. But from there, I love Florence and the Machine. I love Ethel Cain and Mary Lambert. Those are my kind of like top three that aren't Taylor Swift or Delta Goodrem. So yeah, but Florence and the Machine is like, she's my favorite.
Right. Did you get to go to the Taylor Swift run of concerts?
I did get to go. I was up in the gods. So I didn't really actually see her very well. She was like very small, but it was amazing to be there. And I think I lost my voice after that because I was screaming so much.
Yep. And have you had any sort of interaction with Delta Goodrem now that you are in the music scene?
I haven't personally met her, but I did get to go to the Innocent Eyes tour that she just did. She wasn't able to tour the album when it first came out, because she was diagnosed with cancer at the time. So she did like a 20 year, I can't remember, anniversary tour of it at Hamer Hall, and I got to go see that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a full circle moment for me.
Brilliant. So then, now reflecting on the journey a bit more, what was perhaps the most difficult part of getting into this music field and exploring this creative endeavor?
I think the most difficult part was after high school. I was very burnt out. I had quite a negative experience with like music as a VCE subject. Um, Not because of like anything that anyone like said to me or anything. I just really struggled with it. Um, and I pretty much was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm completely burnt out. I don't want to perform. I don't want to sing. So that's why I did theatre at university. And luckily from there, I was able to do a music kind of unit at uni. And I was like, oh, I think I've had enough of a break now that I can do this and I can kind of come back into it and not have an education system around me and not have like outcomes that I have to fulfill. I think with VCE particularly, it's always like you have to do this, you have to do this, and it's all for a reason and it's all for a mark
Mhm.
that is very subjective in the end anyway. And sometimes you don't agree with the mark. So yeah, I think that was the hardest part. It was really hard for my family as well because they were like, "Oh my gosh, we put all this money into music and now you're doing theater. Like, what are you doing?"
Yep.
Um, so when I went back to it, I think everyone was quite pleased.
Yeah, I feel like doing sort of a music or a performance based aspect for your high school end of year, end of schooling exams is probably it's a lot of pressure to put on someone young and turn something that was perhaps a passion into almost a job very early on.
Yeah, and I actually did it twice. So I did like my 3-4 unit, so the final like year 12 unit in year 11, and then I did it again as an investigation subject, which was really just not a smart move on my part. Like, that's really probably what did it. If I had have just done it in year 11 and then had a break in year 12, I probably would have been fine. But no, at the time I was like, yeah, I should just do it again. This is really, really a great idea. It wasn't. So yeah, terrible choice, but I got there in the end.
And I guess it's also like arts and things aren't necessarily like a rigid, this is the correct answer, X and Y. It's kind of, you need to feel it and let it go rather than doing it at school. It's like, okay, you've got all of these milestones to hit very early on, and they're very specific milestones.
100%, and it's also very dependent on the day that you get there. Like, if you perform well, depending on what's happened to you over the week, on the weather, all of that. Like, if you're doing maths, it doesn't really matter what's happened to you before you walk in. The answer is the answer. But yeah, with music, it's like, well, all of these factors happened, and maybe if you had done it on a different day, you would have got like 10 more marks. Who knows? And like, I actually tried to dispute my mark at the time, but I couldn't because they wanted a stat deck, they wanted all these things. They make it very difficult for you to dispute anything with VCE. So yeah, it's a very subjective situation, and I think that kind of ruined it for me a little bit at the time as well.
Was the uni course, did that sort of change your perspective on it and make it a bit more fun?
Yeah, I think that, like, because I wasn't really doing it, like, because the music course I was doing, it obviously wasn't part of my theatre mark. And I was like, oh, I'll just do this because I need an extra unit to complete my degree. I was like, well, I mean, I just need to pass, so there wasn't any major pressure on me. I only really had to show my song to the teacher, so no one was going to see anything if it was terrible anyway. Everything that I did was voluntary. Like, if I showed a song to the class or whatever, if I wanted to work with someone, it was very voluntary. I didn't have any pressure on me as like, okay, well, you're in a music course, you're doing a music degree, so we're expecting you to actually pursue music afterwards. Actually, there was no expectation on me whatsoever because I was a theatre student, and they were like, do you even know anything about music? Because they obviously didn't know my history. So it was great.
Brilliant. So then you mentioned you recently released the new single "Hold It Up" with Mayzie
Mm-hmm.
Chew. That
Yep.
collaboration just came about purely because you were working with her and teaching her?
Yep, pretty much. I have been as I said, I've been teaching her since she was about 12, but she's been part of the studio that I'm working at for a while. I think apparently we met when she was about 10, but I have no recollection, and neither does she. There's a photo of us together, but neither of us remember it happening. But yeah, I took her on after our teacher left, and we really formed this really strong connection. We're both very similar. So yeah, I got the song, it was offered to me, and I heard it, I heard the demo, and I was like, I know exactly the voice that suits this. And I was very lucky that she agreed and wanted to kind of come on board. But yeah, from there, it was actually a really great experience for me because I was able to guide her through the recording process and the release process, because she'd never done that before. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
Yeah, it sounds like you got to sort of explore your creative juices and get those flowing, but also still keep that sort of teaching aspect to the whole process.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, obviously the song was already written. I didn't write it, so we were able to just play around with it a little bit and work with Satali. Again, she's the one who wrote it, and she produced it as well, and she recorded us, which was amazing. But we were just able to play around with the song, with the harmonies and stuff, and just go, okay, well, this is what we want to try with this, and what do you want to sing, what do I want to sing. Yeah, it was a good experience, and there wasn't a lot of pressure on it as well, like, oh my gosh, you wrote the song or I wrote the song. Like, neither of us were kind of like, we were both in the same boat because neither of us had written the song.
And I guess with it being Maisie's first recording and release too, it was just like, let's just do this so you can sort of get a bit of experience under your belt.
Yeah, so she actually took part in a songwriting course that I had organized a couple years ago. So she had recorded before, but she'd released the song. I'd released it for her, but that was really it. There was no promotion around it, and it was very much like an educational experience. This was a like, okay, we're actually really promoting the song. We're contacting people, we're posting about it, we're doing all the stuff. We had a single launch, so yeah, it was definitely a completely different experience for her that she had never had. So I was very lucky to give her that.
Yeah, another whole teaching aspect of it's not just record the song,
Yes.
put it out, and then that's it. It's done. It's now
Yeah.
there's all the other work that needs to be done.
Yes. There's more work in the like
The back end.
the PR part than the actual recording. Yeah.
And when you were sort of working together, finding what you wanted to do specifically with this song, what inspirations did you bring into that process?
I think like for me, I talked to Satali and I was like, I really hear this particular song, or this reminds me of like Missy Higgins or Ethel Kane or whatever this part. But with working with Mayzie and with kind of choosing what parts to do, it was very much like, okay, well, which part do you like the best? Let's make it as simple as we can. I didn't want to go too crazy and be like, okay, well, this is happening and it's all about this. It was very like, okay, let's make this as easy as possible, so that there's not too much going on in her head and not too much going on in my head as
Mm.
well. So yeah, it was like, let's make this kind of straight down the line.
And is this a partnership that you envision continuing in the future, or would you like to sort of see Maisie spread her wings and go out on her own?
I mean, I have been very privileged to hear some of the songs that she's written. She brings them into our lessons all the time. And I would really love to see her release her own stuff without me. Um, Obviously, if she wants to work with me again, she absolutely can, and I would love to do that. But um, she has some stuff that I think she can do without me. It would be amazing to see that.
And then as we look ahead, what's in store for yourself in the rest of 2024 and beyond?
Well, I've got a couple songs that are ready to go. One's already like mixed, and I've just got to kind of get the cover art and all the PR stuff again. Get myself back into the headspace of wanting to do that. But the big goal for this year is an EP. I have been saying that I'm going to do that for years, and now I actually have the time and I think the know-how to do it. So, yeah, that's the goal, and I'm really hoping for September or October for that one.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that. So
Yeah.
in that process, where is the best place for people to support you and track your creative journey moving forward?
Definitely Instagram. That's like my kind of where I'm most prolific. And obviously, all my music's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you listen to music, it's most likely there.
Great. And what's the Instagram handle so we can put that in the
It is Magdalia Music.
perfect. Alrighty. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and good luck with this single and then hopefully the EP later this year.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.